you say you have multiple intelligence sources telling you that this bridge collapse in Maryland may have been an attack on critical U.S. infrastructure. So what exactly are you hearing from these sources?
Well, I've been speaking to a number of people, including, for example, people who were on that bridge when it was opened in the 1970s, who have worked and who know that river and that bridge and the infrastructure backwards, who have worked in intelligence for decades. I've been speaking to both retired people and people on active duty, and all of them, the consensus is that it couldn't have been anything other than a terrorist attack. And the reason, it's funny because you see a lot of people saying, well, look, it happened in the middle of the night. If they wanted it, if it was a real terrorist attack, they would have done it in the busiest time of day. Well, the problem is they don't really understand the nature of cyber attacks. Cyber attacks are unseen. We know this from 2020 because nobody could see the cheat inside the machines. If you don't speak QR code and you don't speak, programming, you really don't know what it is that you're looking at. And by the way, none of the people who oversee our elections know either because they don't speak the language either. So the main point of a cyber attack is that it is unseen. So what you're looking at here, for people who know that river, they know that harbor, they know the critical infrastructure, they've worked in it for decades. When they look at this, they know that watching there's a 7-minute video from a security camera of the harbor. And when they watch that video, they know that when that ship comes into view, it is already outside of the channel that it needs to be in to make that turn, which means someone else is commandeering that ship at that point. It's being piloted by an external source. Now, that's a term that our intelligence agencies know very well because they do it all the time. It's called spoofing. They spoof the GPS signal. So what they do is they create an alternative GPS signal that is completely and utterly undetectable, right? If you go on there and you board the ship and you go through their computers, they're not going to find anything. They've got to go to the source of that spoofing attack in order to begin to trace where it came from. And there's a lot of different ways that, hackers who are doing this can cover their tracks. And so what you're looking at here is you're looking at people that carried out a coordinated attack. They timed it with the full moon because when you have the full moon, that's when you have the biggest differential, the rise and fall of the level of the water. They did it at a critical point on that bridge because any structural engineer can tell you that when you look at that point, the pylons on either end are the two most important anchors for that bridge. If you want to collapse the structural integrity of that bridge, you don't take out the center pylons, you take out one of those pylons on either end of the bridge. And when you collapse that, you bring half of the span of that bridge, half a mile, collapsing into the river. And what you're not seeing here, because some people really don't understand, well, most people actually don't understand the scale of the damage here. You have done, an extraordinary amount of damage, not just to the bridge that you see above the water, but to the concrete structure that's integral to that bridge that's underneath the water. And it's impossible to tell just the extent of that damage. When you look at it from the outside, they're going to have to pull all of that wreckage back. And what you have underneath the surface of the water there is an absolute logistical nightmare that will shut that down for, an estimated 3 to 5 years, according to the sources,